Lango, I see your hand there. Tim probably just going to have a little chat for a minute, and then I'll let him know afterwards.
Yeah, just working up to it, Alango. Working up to what, I don't know, but sometimes there's a working up to speaking. Waiting for the words to appear. So although we're speaking in words, in concepts, in ideas, what's attempting to be pointed to, what's trying to be inferred, because you can't point to it, is not about words at all. It is wordless. So when you hear that this is a futile message, really that's a pointer to say, don't get hung up on words thinking that one word is closer, or one set of words or one way of speaking about this is closer to reality or truth or non-duality or oneness or wholeness or completeness or emptiness or aliveness or being or this. It's very easy to think that whoever's speaking about this, whenever you hear someone speaking of this, they know what they're speaking about. And what I want to emphasize more than anything is that I don't know what I'm speaking about. That's, for me, that's really the core of the message. The waiting is a waiting to know. The waiting is a waiting to understand. And that's the illusion that you can have it all, including nothing. You know, self is greedy. Essentially wants it all. I want the whole prize. I want gold. I'm not satisfied with second. Second might as well be last. I'm looking for victory. Well, there are no winners. There are no winners in what we're speaking of. And the wonder, of course, so there are no winners is the terrible part of the message. And the wonderful part, which is exactly the same as the dreadfully awful part, is that there are no losers. There is no possibility of winning, of there being winners and losers, of winning, of losing, of getting it right or getting it wrong. There is no one who could get this right. And of course, that is very different to every other pursuit that you may have pursued in life, where there is, seemingly at least, success and failure. There is no success. This seeming loss of self that is being spoken about is not a success. There is no one to claim the prize. The prize is utterly empty. but beautifully empty. If it was a prize that some could get and others fail to get, then it wouldn't be free. So the whole illusion is that there are some human beings who have got this, or if you turn it on its head, you can equally say there are some human beings who have lost what wants to be lost, namely me or myself. Neither of those is true. There's nothing to gain or lose. And in that, there is incredible equality and freedom and peace. But none of those things in a way that I would have ever imagined them. A most ordinary freedom, a most ordinary peace, a most ordinary love. Is the end of the possibility that love is special. A special relationship. Love is all encompassing. It's everything. It's not for you or me. What we normally call love is the conditions that each self places on another self and then calls that love. This is a love that wouldn't even recognize that as love. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. Is not the love of which we're trying to point to. So it's not that some human beings have found love or peace or freedom. It's that the freedom that is obvious, rather than seemingly being somewhere else. It may just be obvious that there isn't anywhere else that love could hide, or peace could hide, or freedom might be. It's the impossibility of anything being anywhere else. It's not in the past, a remembered past. It's not in an imagined future. It's not in a all-powerful now either. It just is. Okay, that'll do for an introduction. If you'd like to ask anything, then just put your hand up, and Darren will tell me who I'm going to speak to.
Mm-hmm. So Alango has his hand up.
Alango, yeah, you've had your hand up a long time.
Unmute yourself.
Yes, unmuted. Tim, Darren.
Hi, Alango.
Hello, Tim. Thank you, Darren.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Am I audible and visible?
Yeah, all of those.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting the conversation. Tim, I am a seeker, as you know, and
I've got
looking
that
for
much.
some, yeah,
Got that, Elango.
yeah, looking for something.
Yeah.
And yeah, and sometimes my questions may be recurrent. They may be a bit different from other people, but the ultimate aim is actually not to score, literary debating points or go into semantic verbiose language and go into a long conversation. I am actually like, somebody who's hungry and I want food.
Yeah.
And yeah, so most of the time when I speak to teachers nowadays, that I find it hard to sort of, find a hold on to talk to, because whatever is spoken is negated totally.
Yeah.
So when I say that I am there and I am suffering, that is negated off. They say there is no one talking to nobody and there is nothing to speak.
Yeah.
I come from a place of suffering. The suffering, as I told you last time, was my mental thoughts which go recurrent over the normal pain of a toothache, which is a physical part. So, and you also accepted that, you were once a seeker and a revelation happened to you when you were walking and something changed in you. Though you may say it is irrelevant to you now, it's of enormous importance to me and to seekers that I try to go back to you on a timeline and try to find out that, there was a time where you were a seeker.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe of different things, not necessarily spirituality. And at a certain point in time, the seeking stopped, the seeking energy stopped.
Yeah.
So that event, whatever we can name it enlightenment, we can name it XYZ, it's immaterial. I just wanted to ask a few questions. Did that event stop suffering in your life? Suffering in terms of the thought processes dying down, that what you do is what you do, you book a ticket, etc., etc. But the mental agony of anxiety and depression has gone out of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it.
A lot of it. So I am looking for a space like that to have a revelation.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm requesting, being a teacher, that is there a way or a method that you can guide me on to?
No.
But you are giving a message here. There is no method, you say, but there is a message.
Yeah. And the message, well, I mean, the message is very straightforward, Elango, that, of course, if I was to feed you, which is what you've said, you're starving, you're hungry.
Yeah.
Well, basically, that would be keeping yourself, I mean, it's a great metaphor for keeping self alive, isn't it? So yourself is really hungry, it's desperate.
Yes.
Yeah, for relief.
But yes, from the suffering.
Yeah, exactly. But if I give you methods, there would be no compassion. For me, there could be no compassion in doing that, because there isn't anywhere for you to get to. And the message is that you don't have a self. So why would I want to feed yourself with some more methods that you could go away and work on?
Okay, I'll come down to my the problem that I face every day. Every day is that, like every other human being, that there are thoughts which are not required.
Yeah.
The example I would like to show to you is like, when there is a lion or a tiger or even a dog charging at me, there is a fear for me to run away. That is accepted. That is the usual pain pleasure principle of a normal human being, and a fear you have to survive and you have to run away.
Yeah.
But when I start getting the mental tigers and mental lions of what will happen tomorrow, what will happen the next week, will I have enough finance to pay my room rent, will my partner be with me, will my health be okay, there is a corona epidemic. This is not there in the present moment. And I learned in spirituality that you have to be in the present moment, nothing will happen. But the only disturbance is that these thoughts come, these mental tigers and lions come and disturb my present moment. Wouldn't you think, as a normal human being, that you would like to help me, if at all possible, that those thoughts should go away? Those thoughts should go away.
Well, the thing is, in the past, I would have really loved to help you, Elango, and I could, I mean, in theory, I could give you a number of practices to do, but I'm not going to do it.
Past means when, Tim?
Pardon?
You said past, right? That was before the revelation?
No, I mean, I worked as a teacher and I worked as a therapist, and of course that is giving people some help to feel better about themselves.
Okay, I will come in another way. The same problem. Suppose I'm a computer and there is a lot of virus happening on my computer screen disturbing my work. I would go for an antivirus software to remove the virus part so that I can see my screen and do my work. So I'm asking you as a teacher, do you have an antivirus hack?
No.
But you accept you're a teacher, right, of non-duality?
Well, you can call me a teacher if you want, but I just say there's speaking about it. I wouldn't say I'm teaching it, because teaching it would be methodical, and there doesn't seem to be anything methodical about speaking about this. There's no there's absolutely no methodology in it, so it doesn't feel like a teaching.
But there is a message.
Yeah, there's a message. Yeah, the message is the message is that there's no one to get anywhere, and if I was to give you methods to improve yourself, that would just be feeding yourself, as you pointed out when in your introduction to your question.
Yes. So how do I reduce my suffering as a seeker? When I believe there is a self and energetically feel it, and intellectually every day I face it. It's a reality for me. My intellectual thoughts, my emotional contraction of the me, the self in me.
Well, Elango,
and I see teachers like you after the revelation or the enlightenment. You're off that burden. There is a difference.
Say that, but then that's quite misleading, because no, I'm not off it. There's just no one to be on it or off it. That's much closer, Elango. So what's inferred from when that you're in a position of suffering, that I am suffering, and then Tim, he's transcended his suffering, and that's not what's being said. That is not the message. The message is the suffering is the illusion that I am suffering. That's the suffering. You mustn't think that anyone who speaks about this doesn't have intrusive thoughts about the future. It's just that they're not theirs, and it's just immeasurably different having thoughts about an imagined future when it's obvious that they're thoughts about an imagined future, and there isn't anyone who is traveling into an imagined future. It's just imagination, but imagination still works, it seems.
You said the illusion of suffering, Tim.
Yeah, well, the illusion of suffering is I am suffering. Yeah, and that's the illusion.
Yeah, but the fact remains that the mind and the body suffers.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that. But the illusion is I am suffering. I'm not saying suffering is an illusion. I'm saying the illusion is that I am suffering.
See, for example, if I have a toothache, I go to a dentist and they, give
I'm not talking about physical pain there, Elango. I'm really talking about neuroses. Really.
Yeah, I just gave an example. When there is a physical pain, we have a solution. When there is a fever, you take paracetamol or aspirin. There is a solution. But when there is a mental suffering,
well, if there's mental suffering, there's loads of things. You must have tried them all already. Lango, there's no point in asking me. There's loads of people in much better positions of expertise about how to deal with intrusive thoughts. I mean, meditation is the most obvious one.
Yeah, but I think millions of seekers are trying that, and over decades are not getting anywhere.
Oh yeah,
I'm just giving you a figure because people.
Well, that's exactly why I'm not recommending it, Elango.
So how will this message of Tim Cliss help me in my life as a person who's hearing your talk?
It really won't, Elango. Right. Number one, how on earth would I know how hearing this mismatch of totally irrelevant words strung together influence another human being? How would I know that? I'm not God, Elango. I have no idea.
But now you are in a place of a speaker of non-duality, and that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing in life. That's what the body is doing there.
Yeah.
And the message is being given regularly to hundreds and thousands of people who are listening to you. Wow. And
I don't think I've got thousands yet, Elango, but
okay, at least hundreds.
I'm working on it.
At least hundreds.
Yeah.
And won't you feel, Tim, that you would be a bit different from the pack, that you give something different? not for the sake of, increasing your numbers, but for the sake of, as a seeker, when I ask you, you have now reached the land of what Moses went for, the promised land. Just an example.
I hope you're not suggesting I'm in the land of milk and honey.
I'm just telling you, relatively, compared to the human being, you're in the land of milk and honey. So probably you are in a timeless, spaceless realm where, suffering is not there. You've forgotten your past.
It's very,
Elango,
what I'm suggesting is you wouldn't want this because you've been looking for something really special for 30 years, Elango, haven't you?
It's very simple. End of suffering. Every human being wants it.
Yeah, but for the one who says I am suffering, that would be special, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Or in imagination, that would be special.
No, for me, it's a reality. No, when it happens to me, it's a reality. When there is a pressure on me, for example, I have to pay my house rent.
Okay, this is what I say to you, Elango. It is already the reality that suffering is natural for human beings. Absolutely.
But
there is a huge difference between it's my suffering and there is suffering.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. That difference happened for Tim Cliss about a couple of years ago. And 2,500 years ago, Buddha said the same thing. There is suffering. Life is suffering. There is a way to suffering. Buddha said that. The Vedas said that. Adi Shankara said that. Ramana said that. There are methods. But Tim is maybe in between the group of people who say there is a method and there is no method. He at least says there is somebody called as a seeker.
There is absolutely no method. How could there be?
Alango,
yes,
can I come back to you? Jenny has the hand up.
Sure. I'll be waiting.
In chat, Alice in chat says good discussion.
Please. Yeah. Thank you.
Alice says good discussion. Kane says you speak so beautifully, Tim.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jenny has. We're gonna have to starve Alango to death.
Well, that is, this is a starvation diet.
Jenny, do you want to unmute?
And I will. The number one issue a seeker has as self is that I am the problem. It can be very obvious that I am the problem. But what I can't ever get close to is that I am a problem is no problem, because there is no I am. So it's not this death of I am that you've heard speak of so much. There is no death. You're waiting for your own absence, and there will be nobody there to see it. It's like imagining that you know that you're at your own funeral and you can be there with the mourners. You won't be there. And I can't emphasize enough that there's nothing wrong with seeking. I mean, it's inevitable for me. The whole energy of self is seeking energy, is motivation. My motivation is to become. Now I can envisage the becoming in any way. And for most human beings, it's quite materialistic, what spiritual people call lower. And because they love the idea of they've transcended the material and the physical, and they're on a higher path of seeking, which is such bullshit. There is no higher or lower. It's all seeking for self, all becoming. And that can just stop. Don't ask me how, don't ask me methods. It's very, very obvious that there can be no method. How would there be a method to this, to here, to what is? In a sense, what all methods do is give the illusion of leading away from here to somewhere better. Leading away. They don't, but they give the sense of it. And that's what I want. Self wants to be led to a better future. Give me some help, give me some advice, give me some knowledge, give me understanding, give me insight. Well, there's no traveling, and there's no traveler. This doesn't move. The moving is what seems to be happening, but it's absolute stillness seeming to move. This doesn't go anywhere. It's not moving. And then there's all the beautiful movement. Another analogy would be that, so it feels like life is flowing. It feels like it's flowing like a river. You know, there's lots of beautiful stories of feeling that you're in the flow of life. But the flow and the stillness, the ocean, the depths of the ocean, totally unmoving, they're not two. So the seeming flow and the absolute stillness, or the river and the ocean, they're not two. The seeming flowing and the absolute abyss of empty stillness are not two. And then there's nowhere to go. But in the seeming flow, there's going places. Has anyone else got any questions now?
Jenny has a hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself, Jenny?
Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Tim. Thank you for letting
Hi,
me
Jenny.
speak. Hi, Darren. Something you said at the beginning made me curious what you would say about marriage.
Yeah. What would I say about marriage?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll let the silence speak. Marriage is difficult. There you go. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Relationship, I mean, the problem with marriage is the fairy tale of it. I think marriage is essentially fine, but nearly everyone goes into marriage with a fairy tale idea of what it will be. And of course, life is not a fairy tale. Life is very, very real.
So if you have one person who's really spiritual and likes to talk about that stuff,
Yeah,
and the other person doesn't think about it and doesn't like to talk about it,
that's tricky.
Yeah, it is tricky.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
I guess you just find other ways to come together and
Or not.
and then you take
Well, if any relationship is going to work, you have to find some common ground, and you, if either of the people in the relationship is very dogmatic about their beliefs are the correct beliefs, then it's absolutely doomed to failure.
Oh, good. Nobody's dogmatic. Nobody's.
You know what I
dogmatic.
mean? If one is very insistent. Yeah. Well, no, I don't say doomed to failure, because of course it can be that becomes abusive then, and they insist that the other person comply. I mean, that's quite common. Especially, don't get me talking about relationships in too much detail.
Okay. Thank you.
But relationships are, especially if one self is expecting another self to complete them. Wow. I mean, no pressure then. And really, if you think about it, that's really That's what all romantic literature, that's what all Hollywood movies, it's all about finding the one that would complete me. And so there can be this constant doubt, well, maybe he's not the one. I'm not feeling quite as complete as I hoped I would feel, you know. Yeah, occasionally he does something nice and the sex is quite good. Mostly it's very mediocre, but sometimes it's great. And you know what I mean.
Yes, there's a lot of conditioning about what
and
to
expectation.
expect.
Of course, and the problem with self is, of course, self is expectation. Can't help it. It's all innocent. Because we wouldn't need to speak about what we're speaking about, which is the seeming absence of self, if all selves were tolerant of other selves and not incredibly needy about feeling complete. And the most common way that a self tries to feel complete is to find another self who will fill the holes, fill those aching, longing spaces in themselves that, so each partner does it in a different way. And then there's totally unreasonable expectation. That's how most relationships are. And each partner wonders why they feel let down by the other. I say, don't get me started. There you go. You got me started.
I appreciate it. I got something out of that.
The wonderful news, Jenny, is you need no completing. Now that's, I mean, who ever told you that? No one. There is no one, because there's no one to be complete, there's no completion.
But is it possible that after you find no self, you just kind of separate because there's no need for each other anymore?
Could be. But again, that's just all hypothetical. There's no knowing.
No.
No knowing at all. And what becomes very obvious in the absence of the one who knows what's going on is you don't even know what's happening now, what's going on, let alone what will go on, what might happen, what will happen. I mean, that's seen as completely nonsensical.
So there's never a time when I know what's going on.
No.
That's really unfortunate.
Well, that's the freedom. I mean, it does seem odd to most human beings that the freedom would be not knowing what's going on, but it's very paradoxical, Jenny, because when it's obvious that you don't know what's going on is completely known without any knowing of what is known, what is going on. It doesn't need, you don't need any answers to know 100% what's going on, because there is no one to know it.
Okay.
And in that, there's no what's going on and what you've called yourself, Jenny, are one and the same.
Right. I just get confused with what I used to be and where I'm at now. And
yeah. Well, there isn't anything you used to be, Jenny.
Okay.
Really, no, really there isn't. There's only what is.
Okay.
I mean, I can tell a story. When I was speaking to Elango, he wants to know the story of Tim, what happened and what he was and how he was before. And that's just very obviously just storytelling. And you still have the ability, but there's a big difference between telling a story and telling my real life, what really happened.
Yeah. Did anything really happen?
No.
Okay.
No. Not really, no.
That's what I came here to find out.
No, just this happening.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Ilango has his hand up. It's back for another snack, Ilango, right?
No, starve him a bit longer.
I'm only joking, Ilango.
I'm not. I am. Has anyone else got a question before Ilango has a second snack? Okay, snack time, Ilango.
Yeah, back, Tim. Thank you for the second snack. Tim, I'm trying to actually, trying to understand the message, and it resonates definitely when you say, being a science graduate, I can understand, the entire body is an automatic robot and everything is happening by itself. But unfortunately for me in my life, I'm 57 years old now. I've started listening to these new non-dual teachings at say past 55, and for 55 years, my mind has been loaded with the social doership, and you can do it. Now the point is, how do I erase this out?
You don't.
And only then this message is going to sink into me.
Well, it is already, Ilango. You can't keep away from this shit.
Meaning?
It looks like you've been bitten, Ilango. So really, the only advice I've got, okay, so you've been bitten by the venom of this message.
Yes.
And regardless of what you do or don't do, the venom will do its work. That's just a story. But what I mean is, it's in spite of what you do or don't do, rather than because of.
I get the language, but yeah, Tim, when you as speakers in non-duality give us the message, actually it is a sort of a method in a way that whatever you have been thinking, your belief system starts crumbling down.
Mm-hmm.
Something happens in you and you start believing, okay, these people and a lot of people are following them, and they are living their life. I mean, repeatedly when we keep on questioning you stick on to your point that this is your real life, and that becomes more, the actions speak more than the words, walking the talk. That is how I think in olden days the big teachers used to teach people the way they live their life, totally in fearlessness, and people used to be with them, see their life, and then learn more than the Zen masters especially.
But this has nothing to do with the way in which you live your life.
Then what has it got to do with then?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
It helps the person who's listening to your message that life becomes better. That is what you mean by that venom, isn't it?
Sorry, say that again, Ilango.
When I listen to your message,
mm-hmm.
there is something happening. There is a transmission through the language that my belief system starts coming down and my life becomes better. The suffering starts coming down.
Well, yeah, well, that would make sense. That's quite rational, because of course, a lot of your suffering it comes from your beliefs. But the core belief is the one that you won't shift that one by any effort, is what I'm suggesting. And the core belief is that I am.
Correct. And this was the core belief, which I think Ramana Maharishi heard about him, right? He used to say, question that, who am I? And then the I am will go away. What is your opinion on that method of questioning?
Well, I have talked about that. On self-inquiry, I think if you inquire, this is only my personal experience, I would say. But in my personal experience of self-inquiry, it only took about 10-15 minutes to realize that there was nothing to find.
Okay, Tim.
So I think it's really overstated, that as an intellectual thing, that it would take years and years of practice and meditation on who am I, what am I, in order to come to a realization that there isn't actually anything there.
Since even I felt something lacking in Ramana's teachings. That is what I felt.
Yeah.
Otherwise, in a few moments you could have this done. Another doubt. This is basically on your. You had a talk in FM about your interview came on FM Duality about a couple of hours ago.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And there, this is there also on your website. Like one day whilst leading a group of students on a hike in Derbyshire,
oh yeah,
time stopped. Afterwards, Tim described it as, I knew the rocks and trees and they knew me. I was the rocks and trees and they were me. That's not really how it was, but that seemed like the only way he could make sense of it. After that, quote, revelation, unquote, things were never the same.
No, because that was the start of the seeking.
Oh, this seeking started with the revelation.
Yeah, so that seeming revelation really, well, I could say that was the fuel. That was like, that was every self is a seeker, but that poured petrol on the flames of Tim becoming a spiritual seeker, you could say.
And after some time, that seeking went away.
No, well, 20 years later, 25 years later. So it's pretty slow.
And after the seeking went away, Tim does not feel there is anybody inside Tim, right? There is nobody there.
I don't know any. No, there's no sense of being inside anymore.
Boundaries have collapsed.
The sense of I am somewhere in here.
And you don't feel that any of your methods of those 25 years helped you. That's what you're trying to tell us.
Say that again, sorry.
After the revelation, 25 years of spiritual seeking, after 25 years, you got your out of seeking.
I will have to qualify that. Most of it wasn't what you'd call spiritual seeking. Most of it was pop psychology, self-help, psychology, therapy. But intermixed with that was, okay, I've had this one amazing everyone else seems to call it a spiritual experience. So I did look into that, but it was mostly still really trying to understand and find myself. Just, the same simple shit that virtually every human being comes to at some point in life. They come to the point of, so I really don't feel very good about myself. It's really very obvious I don't feel good enough. And so I'm constantly having to work or distract myself from this pain of being me. That's really what it was about.
How long did the revelation last, Tim? 25 years ago?
No time. That was one of the things that it was very clear about that. It was timeless. So, I could tell all kinds of stories about it. Time stood still. So it was out of time. All of that kind of, lovely stories that we like to tell when we have some out of extraordinary experience. But what I'm speaking about is nothing to do with experience at all. But what experiences can seem to do is they can seem to be very powerful in fueling the seeking. That's really what that did. That's what that experience did. But that's nothing to do with what I'm speaking of as liberation, you could say, as freedom.
Was that instant of revelation just for an instant, which was timeless? I mean, if you take a timeline of a calendar, just an instant or something like that?
Yeah, it was no time. It was actually, because it really was no time. It was while we were walking up, and it wasn't, it wasn't even one step. There you go. In the story.
Could you expand on that timelessness? What was your experience then?
No, because there's no relevance, Ilango. I could, but it's not of any significance at all.
From your point, Tim, from your point of view, for us, it's an enormous significance.
But the thing is, as a seeker,
you know why?
If I give you, I mean, I've already given you more than a snack. That's almost like a 3-course dinner I've just supplied you there.
Okay.
You've got to stop trying to banquet out at my meetings, Ilango, and just, you know, sit and starve yourself.
Tim
okay.
Tim Cliss,
you're the boss.
So if I was going to give you a method, I'd put you on a starvation diet. It wouldn't do you any good, but, you know, at least you'd have a bit of cake.
No, the reason why I'm asking Tim is that, you know, we were not alive when the Buddha was there. We were not alive when Adi Shankara was there. They were enlightened beings. I can't question through a time capsule, but you are there right in front of me, thanks to the internet.
Ilango, if you've heard me say I'm an enlightened being, then I'm going to have to stop speaking, because
no. I'm not saying you're an...
If I've ever suggested or even hinted at that, then I'm rescinding it immediately.
But just 2 minutes ago, you said liberation. You said liberation.
There are no enlightened beings.
But Tim, you said liberation.
Yeah, but it's only the liberation is, or this is liberation. The seeming going from imprisonment to liberation is the seeming, oh, I remember how it was being me, how it felt, and now there is a seeming difference. But it's not a difference for me. It's seeming as though.
Tim, you're calling it liberation. I'm calling it enlightenment. Doesn't make a difference.
Well, there's a lot. I think there is a big difference between the two words, but you know, I don't want to get split hairs about it.
Can I jump in? Because a few people have their hands up. Is that right?
Yeah, ask the other people. Thanks, Ilango.
Thanks, Ilango.
Thank you. Yeah.
Scott, well, Heidi had a hand up, so she might think of another question. We'll see. Scott, do you want to unmute?
Hey, Tim. Hey, everyone. I'm at the gym trying to do this on the slot.
I love it. How greedy are you going to the gym and going to a non-duality meeting? That is fucking greedy.
It's horrible. Yesterday I was in the jacuzzi here, not to push your button, but the sun was coming through the window, hitting the swimming pool and reflecting this really magnificent moving reflection. And I dreamed about it all night. And I realized there's a pattern that hasn't come to words yet. It's just basically movement, but it's not defining anything. You can find it in improvisational music.
Yeah.
Rauschenberg. It's a primordial pattern. And there, before the words, is where there's this piece. So Ilango trying to get the words to this isn't going to get there. It's before that. And so I just felt you, and I felt this pattern, and I felt this kind of, wow, if we could just get it before the words, even colors, you know, just something so slight.
Yeah.
It feeds you, but it doesn't take you anywhere. It doesn't promise you anything.
No, you're right. It's not in the words. But it's hard to communicate in colors and patterns.
I mean, I think a lot of artists.
But that's what
they're.
Well, and sounds, of course, that's what musicians do. Yeah.
But you know what? Even these words might be just like that, just like little waves on the ocean. They're not really taking us anywhere, but we're thinking that they do.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, it's very obvious there's no going anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so just think about that. Thank you.
No, thanks.
Thanks, Sam.
Matt says in the chat, I find it hard to let go of seeking after 10 years. So I can imagine how hard it must be after 55 years.
Yeah.
He also says, earlier he said, there is no I am is the same as there is only I am, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see how, and of course there are a lot of, historically there are a lot of messages of non-duality that say that all is self. You know, that traditional Advaita, what we're speaking of, what I speak of as this, is called self with a capital S. Now, there's a very good reason I don't say that, is because there is no sense of that. And how confusing is it to say that the absence of self with a small s is the presence of self with a big S? I just for communication purposes, that doesn't seem useful or helpful. And for me, I don't know, but it sounds very egotistical. It sounds like, well, isn't that what I always wanted? I always wanted to be the ultimate self, where everything was me, where I am is everything. That's kind of what I was working towards. You could say that was my, that was my end goal as a project, as self, was to be an all-encompassing self, to become one with everything, to become one with God. That all sounded very attractive. Well, you can never know how it is for another human being. All I can try and communicate is that's not what I am speaking about at all. That's not the message. There is no knowing of self. There is no knowing of other than self, which is kind of what Matt's saying. With no self, there is no other. And yet here we are.
Rajiv says in chat, is the seeming answer present in each letter of the seeming question?
I don't know about that. Not sure what you means. I feel I need to emphasize that there isn't an absence of self. There is no self to be absent. That's the message. It's not about going from being me to not being me, apart from telling a story like that. It is never you. It is never me. Thanks, Heidi.
Jenny has a hand up again. Do you want to unmute?
Hi, Jenny.
I was just wondering, hold on, let me remember what I was thinking.
Day, huh?
Yeah, it's a nice day.
Nice breeze.
Lovely breeze.
The stories, that's all we have, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with spreading stories around,
No,
is there?
nothing wrong with any of the stories, no.
Okay, that's all I was wondering.
No. Well, without the stories, Jenny, we really don't have anything to say. Every time we speak, we're just speaking. Yeah. Words are stories. If you just think of one word, it's a story.
Yeah.
You say the word dog.
It makes me feel like I'm lying, though.
Say again?
It makes me feel like I'm lying.
No. It's the best we've got, Jenny.
Okay.
It's not lying. But what I mean by a single word is a story. If we say the word dog, the story is that we know that sound that comes out or is written down, the squiggles that are written down mean that hairy slobbery thing that comes up and wants you to play with it. But we don't know, you know, that's not what it is. It's not a dog. The story is that we know it's a dog. So the story is we know, I know. And if you just think about small children, that's all we try and do as other human beings. We teach all the little human beings how to play the game of living in the story of we know, I know. And from a very early age, reward the little human beings for saying the right words, telling the right story.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the stories, as you grow, as human beings get older, the stories get more and more and more complex.
But not everybody lets go of the story.
No, you don't need to go. There's no letting go of the story. I can't emphasize this enough either. What I'm speaking of has nothing to do with letting go of a story. The stories are exactly as they are. They are just they were never yours. They are never yours or mine. They're just stories. No one has stories. Human beings are just storytellers. And the freedom is seeing every human being speaking, just telling their story, just like a dog. Each dog has its own bark. There, you know, it's no different. Just like Yuji always said. Don't listen to these words. They have as much significance as a dog barking. You know, so when Ilango is hanging on the words and thinking there's significance in the words, is way off point. All the words are trying to do is point towards this that can't be pointed towards.
Would some people call this God, or is that incorrect?
Well, I wouldn't call it God, but I can see why some, if you come from a very religious background, then you might say that. But there's a lovely speaker. If you like the word God, then you might listen to Rebecca Maroon.
Okay.
Rebecca Maroon, she's an English non-duality speaker who, rather than say this, she says God. And being a devout atheist, as Tim herself, or at least maybe occasionally agnostic, but generally atheist, I was very anti-God. And it's funny that strongly held belief, although I could still say I'm an atheist, it means nothing. It doesn't matter at all. That's one of the freedoms as well. Of course, when beliefs are mine, they're very important. They're right at the core of my sense of who I am. Whereas when beliefs are just seen as, oh yeah, well, of course, with the conditioning and just, well, yeah, that seems what I believe. Political beliefs are the same.
Right. When you're all in the same boat,
Yeah.
then it doesn't matter anymore.
That's really nice way of putting it. Yeah. We're all in the same boat, and there is no boat, and there's nobody in it. That's kind of the message. Yeah, but we're all in that same no boat.
Quite a showboat.
We're all just the ocean. You know, if we're using the boat analogy, there isn't a boat. And so there's all these human beings on the ocean, but they are the ocean. So they're not
So funny, because in my story, this all started because I saw a boat.
You had a boat?
I saw a boat on the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
And it sparked something.
Did it? Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
It was
but
weird.
I say that we are all in the same boat, yeah. There's a great equality in being empty.
That's why it's oneness, but it's not, because it's emptiness.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Thank
So
you very much.
the emptiness and the oneness are not two.
It feels like a big word game.
It does sound like it, but you know, it sounds like games, but it's just a futile attempt to express the inexpressible. Because you don't, you know, the words are never going to come close. It doesn't stop the desire to speak about it.
Okay.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.
What do you want to do, Tim? There's a hand up. There's
Let
chat.
Alice
Alice.
speak. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and before Alice speaks, Jackie says, "Will you marry me, Tim?"
Wow. Jackie, surely I have said this, Jackie, I have said this before. I'm thinking this isn't the time or the place.
Well,
Those
those
kind of declarations need a little bit more privacy.
I'm proud to love you, Tim.
Yeah, you message me, Jackie. Message me with those sort of proposals.
Okay, yeah, we'll do, Tim. We'll do.
Okay.
Do you want to unmute Alice?
Alice, yeah. Hi, Alice. You're still muted, Alice.
I really appreciated Ilango's discussion with you because I have a lot of the same stuff going on and the questions for me. And it was very deep to hear that discussion. And I realized that, no, I don't want to say that, but so he has a story like I have a story. I mean, similarly, it might have different avenues, but I noticed that in the remarks, there was like irritations with that story. And how are the irritations with that story different than the story itself?
No, it's all stories, all the way down, Alice.
That's really good to hear, because sometimes I have thought to ask a question and I just thought.
No. You can ask any question. It's fine.
Okay. Good. I'm glad I spoke with you. Thank you.
The thing is, I sit here and it's very obvious. I mean, I'm looking at a lot of faces and I can see irritation on some people's faces, or, you know, like dismissing. But there's no sense here to dismiss the way that self comes at this and wants to get it, because I had 25 years of that. So why? There's no sense of being dismissive. I will say no, but there's no sense of it's wrong in any way. The sense I get is that it's absolutely inevitable that if there's a sense of me, then I want to get it. That's what I want.
Yes.
And if you think someone else has got what you want, then you want to get it off them. You want them to. Why are you keeping it to yourself, you selfish bastard? Let us in on the secret. You know, that's how self comes at problems. That someone else, if they're speaking about this, another human being must have an answer. No matter how many times it's repeated that this is not an answer and that there are no answers and that no answers are required, self hears that as a possible answer. It just can't be off it. So that's the answer, that there are no answers. So now I need to go seeking, looking for no answers. You know, it's like, but it can't be any other way. That's how it was. So if there is a method, then, you know, using Ilango's food metaphor, it is that. So there's two ways you could go. You could say in a story, and we only have the stories, Alice. So you can stuff yourself until you could say until you explode, because you've eaten too much, you're so sick that kills you, or you could go on starvation. But of course, neither of those will work, because again, they're just stories, and there isn't anything that needs to work. That's the bit that you can't hear as self, is that no, already this is complete and whole already. It's not somewhere else. This isn't talking about a time to come. There isn't a time to come.
That feels relaxing.
Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, it is very devoid of hope, but that's the love. Hope is the opposite of love. Self won't have that, but it really is true. There's no love in hope. It's just saying, it's always saying, this isn't right, this isn't good enough, this isn't correct, this isn't how it should be. That's what hope always says. Well, thank you very much for coming, everyone. And thanks for all the lovely questions and the contributions. It's been great. And there's no, I do emphasize, if you've got something to ask, please don't feel that I'm going to be irritated by it or there'll be a problem with you asking anything. There really won't be. If you say, is so-and-so such and such, and is it like this, then I'll just say no or yes. Neither is preferable here. There is no, that's the freedom. This isn't dogmatic in any way. There's nothing to defend in this at all. That's why I love to share it, because the end of having something to defend, that is love. That's unconditional. That there isn't anyone getting this wrong. No one can get life right or wrong. There is no one getting life right or wrong. That's the wonderful news. It doesn't mean to say it's lovely and sweet and pleasant all the time. It's just as it is. That's the love. And it might be obvious that it couldn't be otherwise. That's what seems to die. It could be otherwise. Thanks very much, everyone. I'll send invitations to out to everyone who's on the mailing list. If you're not on the mailing list and you'd like to be, then just go to the website and message me, and then I'll send you invitations. Yeah, thanks. And if you'd like to make a donation, thanks, Rocky, then donations are always welcome. I may look affluent, but that's illusory. So
It probably goes for all of us.
it's a great facade, but I should look poorer than I do in order to get more donations. But yeah, you're welcome to give a donation, and just go to Tim Cliss this, and you can donate on the webpage. But thanks.
I'd like to declare that I'm definitely going to make a donation this week. I'm declaring that. Okay.
Right. If you think you can buy marriage by making a donation, Jackie, you're very much mistaken.
I think you guys better
how much
talk
it
terms.
You think, what sort of cheapskate do you think I am that I'm going to get married for a fiver?
What about one night? What would one night be?
Oh my God.
Jackie, I think I'm way out of your price range. I'm so not.
And you're way out of my league. Are you
No,
trying to say I'm way out of your league?
No,
Your league, aren't you?
no,
You
price-
are. Yes, you are.
Believe you
Hey
guys
Tim,
better
do you
have
do
some
Zoom
terms.
shows?
Anyway,
I think a tenner.
I would like to
I
buy
think
a
a
Zoom
tenner would do
show.
it, Jackie.
a
Kelly,
tenner,
cover your ears.
you're on. I'll get it in the post.
Or a set of golf clubs.
I've got a new golf club. Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Get
Tim.
the noms one.
Thanks.
Oh yeah, Lee Westwood.
All right.
Welcome.
Bye all. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks,
Thank you, Derek.
Tim.